Greetings and good day. I'm Rodger Newbold. I'm the furry face guy here, and welcome to all of you for this episode from Experience Photography. Today, my fellow photographer and the editor, director of this episode is Matt Rich. And currently Matt is comfortably seated in the control room. Are you there, my friend? All right. Now, whether you're a professional, an enthusiast, a photographer, or just starting out, knowing what to look for when shooting with a tripod is really critical. Most of the time, a tripod can make the absolute difference between a blurry image and a sharp, crisp picture. You know, those kind that receive the real big accolades. Like this picture by Matt, his Canyonlands Storm. Yeah, fantastic, but that's when you need a tripod. In essence, a tripod is a three-legged camera mounting device that makes it far easier and more controlled to take good quality pictures. As we discussed in our last episode, not every photographer requires a tripod, but there are really several advantages that you gain by having one. The tripod allows us to utilize techniques such as prolonged exposures, like this picture's of the still rocks with the water moving along, coming down through the rock valley there. And I mean, it has to be still and sharp for the rocks, yet let the shutter speed go long enough to capture the movement in the water. It also provides you with a passport to experimenting with various photography techniques, such as combined images and precise compositional framing and filter placements. You can see in this picture, which is a long exposure of the stars over the river. You need that tripod to hold everything still for a long exposure. So what are some of the common features to consider before you purchase a tripod? Number one is weight. The physical weight may well be the biggest factor of a tripod. Every other factor comes back to the eventual overall weight. Now, weight is really the difference in will I carry it or will I not? As you can see in this illustration, will I carry the blasted thing or not? It depends on how heavy it is, how far I'm going, a lot of things. So we want to consider weight. However, many items fall under the weight category, and that needs to be examined. Height is a primary concern. Taller units obviously equal greater mass and therefore more weight. So first of all, consider, how tall are you? Will this provide you with enough of our first clue? Well, that's your primary subject matter. Do you require extra tall legs? So one leg is facing downhill on the slope so it can be planted, so the other two legs remain tall enough for you to see through the camera. Here's a picture that I shot just to show that you could have a full downhill extension. This is what I call the Grand Canyon sloping away factor. Because when I'm shooting at the Grand Canyon, you're often got one really sticking downhill. And you don't want to be scrunching down looking through the back. You want the back legs to be as tall as you can and the front leg to be as stable as you can. Now, that's a good starting point. Now, thicker legs equal greater stability, which is necessary when wind or soft ground may be involved. But thicker legs also add weight. Here is a picture I shot of the tripod legs together of two of my tripods to showing the difference in diameters of a thicker, heavier, more stable, rigid tripod and a lighter carry travel tripod. Now, how much does your camera and lens kit weigh? A tripod that is rated to stabilize 10-pound load will be heavier than a pod that's meant to hold a cell phone. For sure, you want something more than fly rod thickness for legs, and probably something less than telephone poles diameter legs. Now, tripod construction material will definitely determine your overall weight, and we'll talk about material in just a minute. I would advocate a medium weight tripod of about 4 to 6 pounds as your first or at least travel tripod. That will get you, consider that if you're 5 to 6.5 feet tall, you're not always bending over trying to look in the camera. You can not kill your back. You can look straight through. It has probably a 6 to 20 pound payload capacity. And that's one thing you want to check before you purchase. What is the payload capacity of that tripod and how much your gear weighs? You may require a heavy tripod, and that may be up to, say, an 8-pounder if you're doing studio work or field work, especially with big cameras, with motor drives, battery packs, telephoto lenses, or 4x5 or larger cameras. 80 inches in height with a 40-pound payload rating, and having your leg thicknesses about 1.5 inches may be just right for those big circumstances, those big heavy cameras. I know that the Manfrotto 057 series or the Gitzo 3 series tripods will fill the bill. Now, I want you to think about your future use, the possible upgrades in your kit. Whether you're walking long distances, are you driving or are you flying? The overall length of your tripod has to be taken into account here, and look for the collapsed length for just a second. Will the collapsed length slide together, fold up, and fit in your duffel bag or a suitcase or some type of case for shipping? My medium-sized tripod will just barely fit into my suitcase diagonally if I remove the tripod head while I'm shipping it. It fits, and it becomes one less piece of baggage that I have to keep track of and fret about or anything else. Contemplate if you need a tripod with a shoulder strap. Do you want to wear it over one shoulder while you're walking? Or can it be strapped to your backpack or camera bag while moving between locations? Or are you just happy to carry it in hand? Now, I found that often you need both hands free to climb or to balance yourself. And if you have too long of an overall tripod length, it catches branches, it catches on the rocks, and sometimes it catches your companion in the head. Now, my tripod legs can be unlocked and splayed out so that the camera can be less than a foot off the ground. And that gets you those really dramatic shots. Take a look at this one of the salt pan at a real low angle from Death Valley by Matt. Also, my tripod has a center extension column that rises up another 8 or so inches of height when it's extended. Now, this action, extending the center column, makes the camera more susceptible to vibration and possible movement. So Beware, I don't use it all the time, but it's a nicety. Now, stability is the number 2 point we want to look at. As mentioned above, stability or weight contributes to stability, and cost contributes to overall stability. A better quality tripod unit will have more secure connections to all the joints and legs and to the center column and the head. And your choice of construction material has much to do with stability. Most plastics flex, and worse than that, they expand and contract with temperature changes, and that, my friends, is not a good thing. Now, this picture that was coming up here shows a number of different things that I want you to kind of be aware of. It shows a flip-top lock, and it also shows adjustable tensioning or tightening screws at the flip locks. We'll talk about that in a second. But metallic joinery will always perform better. Fasteners, bolts, and adjustment points should be very accessible to you so you can tighten them down, and you should be able to purchase a tool and that you can use yourself to adjust and tighten all of these points and do some immediate repairs when you're out in the middle of absolute nowhere. Hidden joints and connections that lead to frustration, they always cause a very costly early retirement. And I've had, unfortunately, more than my share of tripods get retired simply because you can't fix them, tighten them, or use them any longer in a controlled manner. Now, build material. In my early days of photography, many photographers were still utilizing wooden tripods. Well, wood did not expand or contract in the cold. It didn't freeze up. It didn't become unusable. It did not transmit vibration easily. It did everything a tripod should be, except be portable. You're carrying a giant pile of lumber, and it was heavy. When I first met Ansel Adams, he was using a wooden tripod. And I thought, that's the cat's meow. If it's good enough for Ansel, it's good enough for Rodger. I ran out and bought one, and I found out that it was heavier than me, and I'm chubby. Well, aluminum tripods, they soon became the rage, and they are in wildly wide use today. Now, the tubular legs seem to be more favorable than the U-shaped channels for stability and vibration resistance. You got to trust me on this one. I've been to Bryce Canyon in the wintertime. It was minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Aluminum will freeze fast and will not allow any adjustments. They become difficult to hold on to, or worse, they become almost impossible to let go of. You're frozen right to the tripod legs. They're great. You can find small tubular cushions or plumber's covers that go over hot water lines that you can slide over the legs. There are solutions, but there is no solution to a frozen head that will not adjust when it's freezing cold. Now, carbon fiber tubular legs are now the newest rage, and personally, I think they work the best overall. I am really happy with mine. The picture here indicates CF is telling you that it's carbon fiber material, and then you see the little sticker on the leg that says that it has magnesium, and that's the base or shoulder material. And I've not had one freeze solid. At least yet I haven't. They do not become defiantly cold to hold or use. Normally, they don't seem to expand or contract to any great extent. They do weigh about 25% less than aluminum, and that's a real main goal for me, is not to have that much weight. They are slightly more expensive, but trust me, you really get what you pay for. Now, there are other types of materials that are available. I know some manufacturers make a basalt tripod. It's a porous lava rock filled tubes. They're reportedly light and strong, but pretty costly. And I don't think there's too many of them building tripods like that. So please look for the tripod that suits your exact needs, because you will really need to become close friends. You may eventually, I hate to tell you this, you may eventually need more than one tripod. Depending on what you do and how your photography progresses, you may need a giant tripod for studio work or for giant lenses and giant cameras. But for the basic part, an everyday user is my best and most often used. Then I have a tiny little 12-incher tripod that's holding the video camera as we're filming here today. And that little tabletop model is very useful when doing little macro things, and I find that great. So choose wisely, don't waste your money. Number 4, the leg locks. There are basically 2 different types available, the twist lock or the lever lock. This one's not too difficult because not all twists or levers are the same. Some twists never unlock and some never lock solid. Some fail when you're using it out in the sand in the desert areas. They get filled with sand, they slip, they skid. I have found that the twists in my Gitzo brand tripods seem to stand the test of time, and I haven't had any trouble with them, but they are a little more money. Lever locks do need occasional tightening, and they need adjustments. They need TLC. They can be tensioned up and cleaned in the field with some very common tools if you make the right selection. And that is something that you'll really need to be aware of. We showed that earlier. Make sure you can see where all of the jointing happens and what type of nut driver, screwdriver, or whatever tool you may need to do adjustments with. And always, obviously, keep a rag in the back of the truck or the bottom of your pack or something to clean the sand and stuff off your tripod between uses. Not all flippers are the same. Check them out. When you snap them down, do they snap securely? Or are they weak and they unlock at will? Do they snag? They stick out so far that they will pop open because they snag onto something? Well, my Manfrotto has stood the test of time, and I like it very much. Another thing when you're choosing a set of tripod legs is look for the color. I hate shiny, reflective tripods that cast spurious highlights back into your subject. With Photoshop, you might be able to repair some of those funny looking highlights that hit your subject matter. But it adds more time and it's a lot more expense. I advocate getting a black or gunmetal gray set of legs. In my work, I have to do copy work often, and I may have to shoot a piece of artwork or something else that is under glass. Now, you can use polarizers, you can use all kinds of things that, to help you out, but I'll tell you, you can't never get rid of a big set of chrome legs sticking out in the picture. So get a dark colored tripod and you'll be better off for it. Now, leg tips. These don't seem very important, but I really believe that if you have adjustable or replaceable leg tips, you'll find happy use in your tripod. Rubber legs tips are splendid when you're working on a finished floor, and they do not mar up the floor. Now, turf spikes are great. You don't want to use them on a hardwood floor, but they're great on grass or out in the heather or even on rocks. This is one of my tripods that I'm showing you. It has adjustable screw-out spikes, and they're great because it's a multi-use device. Some tripods offer replaceable snow baskets like those found on ski poles, and they're great for snow or sand to keep the tripod up on top of the surface and keep them from sinking or moving during usage. A little item such as leg tips can really be highly exasperating when the tripod's not cooperating with you in the moment of real need. So seek the best tripod you can afford once rather than hitting and missing. I found from my experience, I've done that too many times. There are many quality and reputable tripod manufacturers out there. Your selection may depend on where you live, and remember this, write this down before you buy. I recommend you do due diligence in your camera store. If you go there and a good employee will direct you to those tripods that fit your pre-configured list. Go in with a list of all of these things we've talked about and said, I prefer flip legs rather than twist legs, or vice versa. I prefer a 6-pounder rather than a 10-pounder. I prefer one that goes 7 feet tall rather than a 4 foot tall. You really need to do your due diligence in this regard so you can make a list. You know what to ask your store employee for and get the help that you need. Now, our next episode will look at tripod heads. These are the things that fit on the top of the tripod legs, that hold onto the camera and allow you to point the camera, and they become most functional. Please subscribe to our channel. Give us a big thumbs up and let us know that, hey, you guys are giving me good information and I like this and it's valuable to me. And then tinkle the little bell. That'll give you an indication when new material's up. So if you like what's going on, do these things. And by all means, my friends, please keep up your comments and your questions. I love hearing from you guys. Matt and I discuss what we hear back and all of our feedback. We try to aim these at giving you the best batch of information that you can use right now to make your photography better. So I'm happy that you're getting everything that you need. Please make a good comment. Thumbs up, my friends. This is Rodger and Matt, and we're signing off for now.